in Vedic culture, a guest is considered to be a representative of God. And one of the ways we want to honor our guests is by recording these interviews with them, and about the topics which are relevant to their life, to their mission, to their preaching. Yeah. And, my name is Vedagarbha dasa, and today we have His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaja, who came on a short trip to Ukraine, he has visited Mother Farm, then visited Kyiv Temple, and then going to Lviv. Yeah. Maharaja, thank you so much for coming in these difficult times for Ukrainian devotees. Yeah. It's a great opportunity for us, for the association and for our community. Yes. So as far as I know, you came here to speak about creating Vrindavan-like villages. So the topic. Yes. I've been touring for the last 2 months, actually, different countries, and Ukraine was on the map. The last one in Europe, speaking about introducing the whole concept of make Vrindavan villages, because Vedic culture we often don't understand. Vedic culture is primarily what we call an agrarian society, which means actually cow-based economy, cow-based culture, and is very important, especially in our present times, where we are so much going away from our original culture, from our original spiritual culture and our original material culture, to bring some awareness to devotees by having seminars on this topic, and encouraging devotees to read especially certain books and references where Prabhupada speaks quite elaborately on the subject matter. Yeah. Maybe you could summarize maybe in a few words for those who are viewing, might be interested to see your seminar. What's the main point of this Vrindavan-like? Correct. Yes. Well, actually, we have to know a little bit of history in terms of what has taken place since the Industrial Revolution, about a little more than 200 years ago, because prior to that, majority of people in different countries were actually very close to nature, living off the land, including here in Ukraine. We don't even have to go back 200 years. And the whole Vedic culture is advocating and instructing that actually this is meant to be the more natural, standard way of living, where there are 3 very important factors that are meant to be present and that help any country, any community to actually meet its needs both materially and spiritually. And those are cows. They're described actually in the Shastra as gifts of nature. I was talking about it a little earlier. Cows, land, and knowledge. So in modern day society, as we all know, we are becoming more and more urbanized. We're leaving the villages, we're leaving our tradition, we're leaving our culture. And therefore, we as devotees, we have this great fortune of having this knowledge because it's part of the Vedic culture, where we are meant to understand both the spiritual dimension of what is dharma, which means awakening the soul back to its to our original spiritual nature as servants of Krishna, and also, as important, is to understand what is meant to be the more natural lifestyle for that spiritual awakening to actually take place. Prabhupada, for example, in many conversations, he would explain when talking about varnashrama that it's not so easy to become Vaishnavas. Sometimes we think, oh yeah, we're Vaishnavas, all we have to do is chant and dance and take prasadam, which is of course there, which is important. But in order to actually become actual Vaishnavas, Krishna has established a social system, which is called varna and ashrama, and and that social system is agrarian-based, as I mentioned. That ideal community, that ideal village is Vrindavan. So Krishna actually, when he comes in the material world, he displays and shows us both the spiritual dimension, in Vrindavan all the different relationships are there between the devotees, all the different rasas are displayed. That's why Vrindavan pastimes are so attractive. And at the same time, he's showing us what is meant to be the more natural way of being connected with nature, being connected with cows, of living localized life, self-sufficiency. Residents of Vrindavan, they never went to Mathura. There's no need to go to Mathura. It's only Nanda Maharaj who goes once a year to pay taxes. So we're trying to awaken our devotees to that other dimension. Prabhupada spoke about 50% of his mission is yet unfulfilled, that of establishing varnashrama in that context. Yeah, briefly.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw that this is quite a topic that's not controversial, let's say, but it's discussed a lot among devotees. So some devotees, they're stressing that this need for establishing varnashrama is there, and this is our mission, a very important mission. And the others, they may be saying that in modern times it's so hard and maybe impossible to do it.
Yeah.
What's your message for them?
Okay. Well, it is a controversial topic. Because, more and more of our devotees, even now, majority of our devotees are living in the cities and don't have this kind of, village background. And therefore, they ask themselves these questions: Is it really necessary? I mean, is it even possible? In our present context, which are all very valid questions and doubts that devotees have. So one way to understand is that, why did our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, speak about it? If it's not really important, and why would he tell us to actually introduce varnashrama? Why he would encourage us to actually establish self-sufficient communities? Why did he tell us that modern-day civilization is a doomed civilization? Why did he tell us that modern-day society is soon going to come to an end? So we need to hear actually from Prabhupada. We also need to hear from our Shastra, because naturally Prabhupada is speaking about Shastra. And therefore there's one study, one research that was made some years back, actually commissioned by the GBC. Many devotees may be less aware. But it was in 1996 when it was Prabhupada's centennial, right? And at that time, the GBC established a committee to do research on community development. Anyways, their research resulted in a book that's called Speaking About Varnashrama. We have a ministry in India for promoting Daiva Varnashrama. It's called ISKCON Daiva Varnashrama Ministry. And we published, actually printed like 3,000 copies of this book. I should have brought a copy actually. But we encourage devotees especially to read this particular book, which is 100% Prabhupada's explanations, dealing with cows, dealing with agriculture, dealing with education, dealing with economy, with politics, so many aspects, because varnashram encompasses everything, isn't it? So I would request devotees to read certain references that are very important, where Prabhupada, takes the time to explain and gives references from Shastra, etc., like that. It's initially difficult because we're conditioned, and we are also what we call comfort zone. There's a tendency to be just, be happy and comfortable in what we're accustomed to do, comfort zone. So definitely it's Prabhupada could have also stayed in Vrindavan and not bothered to go to the West, because he had 2 heart attacks, as we know, on the Jaladuta. He for the first 1 year, really not that much was happening. He took a lot of trouble, but he knew that this was important and just see the results. Because one person, took to heart the instructions of his spiritual master and understood the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the same mission as Krishna in terms of introducing, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika. So initially, yes, it's natural that there will be reservations or doubts or questions and whatnot. But see, we need to understand that because we are neglecting this whole dimension of dharma, I was mentioning briefly in the lecture a little while back, all of our food, the way we're getting food, the quality of the food, now, because we're going against nature, we're not following dharma, so our very survival, we are allowing actually 150 or so species, different species, to become, to be annihilated. Actually, extinction of species is a real major problem, and we depend on these species. The more they disappear, the more dangerous it becomes for us. So this one book I published, Modernity is Killing Civilization. Prabhupada said how modern civilization is a killing civilization, literally, and also in terms of spiritually as well. So these are, if devotees take a little bit of time to hear what our founder Acharya explained and discuss amongst themselves, it will be more easy to understand. Yeah, it shows that the contrast, all the high-rise buildings, and then you have one cow, only one cow, because cows are disappearing. I've been visiting villages in India, and in some villages you can't even find one bull. And the reality is that we depend on villages. That's where the food is produced, and the more we are losing our cows and bulls in the villages, then it's a matter of time that the village will not function, and then we'll be in real trouble. Devotees are generally just not aware of these things and the kind of very critical consequences. I mean, the planet is in major crisis, in major chaos is there because we are not understanding and not following these principles of dharma, both on the spiritual level and on the material level. So there's a natural way to produce food. We've changed that system. We've introduced machines, and as a result, 70% of our topsoil is practically destroyed. One of the global problems in the world is called desertification. More and more land is becoming desert-like and dry, and the food, because we're using so much of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, is also losing its nutrients, natural nutrients. So therefore, although we may eat so many varieties of food, we are not able to maintain, as before, health by taking good quality food. Yeah. So it's we need more brahmanas, especially brahmana type of devotees who can give their mind, their attention to try and understand what Prabhupada was trying to convey to us. Yeah. And it's critical, really. That's why one of the messages that I have in this tour, for example, is, number one, Prabhupada wanted that immediately 50 years ago we established varnashram colleges so that our devotees who have not been exposed to the Vedic culture can learn some basic things. And therefore we need to train teachers who can help establish varnashram colleges, also Gurukula, traditional education. And the third is we need to secure land in different countries around the world, and we need to revive Vedic villages, because that is meant to be the norm. Majority of people are meant to live not in urban centers.
The varnashram colleges, so there are some gurukulas in in ISKCON, but I haven't heard of any colleges. Is it necessary to go first to Gurukula to go to the Varnashram college, or is it
No.
separate things?
Yeah. It's separate. There is a connection. Prabhupada, as you know, explained that Gurukul is for the younger boys, and Varnashram college is for, you see, for the older boys, or for those who, especially I would say for those who have not had that kind of, who've not been exposed, let's say, to the Vedic culture. So we actually have very few Gurukulas, and we have less. We have less Varnashram colleges. Actually, the ministry that we have in India, IDVM, ISKCON Varnashram Ministry, which was established like in 2009. From that year, it's been giving courses, but we don't have an actual place. Actually, I'm working with some devotees, a group of devotees. 3 years back, 2020, we started, just before the pandemic actually, Varnashram College courses online, VCO. And then the year after, 2021, this group of devotees established an organization to actually get some land in Mayapur. They've acquired some land, 1 acre of land, which is going to be very close to the part of the master plan in Mayapur is to develop like educational institutions. Already there's like Gurukul, Mayapur Institute is there. You've been to Mayapur, probably, yeah. So there's about 100 acres of land. So we're just a little bit close to that. We chose land there so that we could be close to these, because part of that is going to be like 25 acres for Mayapur University is being planned. So we have 1 acre of land, and I have relocated since about a year and a half actually in Mayapur to help this project kind of unfold. And it will be, in addition to online courses, we'll have a place where devotees can come. There'll be residential facilities, etc., with the idea that as devotees become knowledgeable, then they can go to any place and help establish. So we'll be coming out with guide manuals, 3 guide manuals actually. 1 guide manual to establish Varnashram colleges, another guide manual to establish Gurukulas, traditional Gurukula, and another guide manual to establish Vedic villages. Very much needed. Yeah.
I know a few devotees who would like to go to such.
Definitely, yeah. And the idea that, Prabhupada said every temple, every place we have a temple or project, we should have a college. Anyways, we have to start somewhere and then train acharyas, Gurukul acharyas, Varnashram acharyas, and which is mostly like for brahmanas, and to organize villages, that's more like kshatriya. Prabhupada told us, and he told his disciples in America, the US, he wanted us to introduce Brahmana culture, Kshatriya culture, and those are the 2 most important. Also, we need to introduce Vaishya culture and also Shudra culture. Shudra is unfortunately, like the word Varnashram, has a negative connotation, especially the word Shudra. But actually, Shudra, to be a Shudra, according to Narada Muni, one needs to be quite, very qualified. There are 8 or 9 qualities described by Narada Muni. One of them being Satyam, truthfulness, and the other one being Shocham. Those are 2 of the 4 pillars of Dharma. So, not everybody can be a good Shudra. A good Shudra means a good servant. Ultimately, that's the basis of our Krishna consciousness. How to become good devotees means how to become good servants. And the best servants are meant to be those who are in leadership position. Brahmana is meant to be the most ideal servant, and the king also, or leader in society. And Vaishya, these are the 3 natural leaders that require very specific training that is given in the Shastras.
I wanted to ask one practical question about Kyiv. So here, as you probably know, we have quite a big community.
Yeah.
Let's say it's an interesting thing with the city community.
Yeah, yeah.
And also we have several projects around Kyiv, like another farm you visited, and a couple more devotee families who try to establish some agricultural projects.
Yeah.
And I read once Srila Prabhupada's letter or instruction about how this city temple can cooperate with these communities.
Yes.
So is it in context of your exposition about food that you're not getting? Probably it seems to me that it's a good idea that devotees cooperate in this way. So
Yeah, absolutely.
They can source their food from these
yes.
farms.
Prabhupada actually had instructed for every temple that we have, within a 50-kilometer radius, we should have at least one farm community, and that there should be mutual support. You know, devotees from the city can come there to have experience of, to understand about cows, to understand about where food comes from, and as much as possible supply at least to our deities, and then to the devotees in general. Of course, one community may not be able to do that by itself, and therefore we need to actually establish many communities. If we understand, the more we understand how Vedic culture, as I mentioned earlier, is an agrarian-based culture, and that the economy is meant to be economy connected with cows and land, which is the real sustainable economy. Modern day economy, as we know, I mean, every country is like in debts over their head, you know, and we have a major financial crisis. I mean, it broke down a few times, and at any time we can wake up in the morning and, you know, the value of, so Prabhupada told us, don't, you know, it's very dangerous to rely on a very artificial system, etc., like that. So, see, our devotees need to understand that our cities are meant to be especially for preaching, bringing new people to Krishna consciousness, and especially training individuals who will go out on book distribution, who will organize different programs, etc. But that's going to be a small percentage of our devotees, because majority of our devotees are married, have children, need to work, etc., like that. But majority of devotees actually who are not engaged in frontline preaching, they are not meant to live in cities, because the cities are very rajasic and tamasic, isn't it? Mode of passion and ignorance. And, you know, most of our devotees have to work in association or in a very negative, difficult kind of environment. I mean, we're sending most of us most of our devotees who are householders are sending their children to public school, which is not ideal. So it's very difficult in that kind of non-devotee atmosphere to actually practice nicely our Krishna consciousness. So those who are not actually in frontline preaching, we definitely need to maintain, to keep our city centers and to continue this frontline preaching. Those who are not able should try to understand what is meant, what the Bhagavad Gita explains as prescribed duties. Prabhupada explains actually how majority of our householders, who are not in frontline preaching, their means of livelihood should actually be connected with cows and land. Something we don't understand immediately, but that's this second reference is very important. Many of our devotees may be less familiar with the very important instructions given by Narada Muni in the 7th canto, chapter 11 to 15. The last 5 chapters of that canto are specifically dealing with the whole subject matter. And Prabhupada gives very nice purports where he very clearly explains what we often don't hear, I would say. Yeah. So, there's a whole system that Prabhupada introduced whereby there can be mutual cooperation between our city temples and our rural projects as well. Yeah, but most devotees don't understand that actually we need, it's not that we establish one farm community and just be happy. We need to revive that whole, lifestyle. The Vedic lifestyle is what Krishna has shown us in Vrindavan. It's village life, localized living. Otherwise, most of our devotees, whether it's in Kyiv or any city around the world, where every day most of our devotees have to go to work, you have to travel, and this is not the Vedic way of doing things. And working in activities which are also not so ideal. Because we are kept away. We're keeping ourselves away from what is meant to help us actually become advance spiritually more easily and more quickly. The natural lifestyle connected with cows, with land, because like cows are in the mode of goodness. When we associate with cows, we develop the mode of goodness, isn't it? Yeah. And also when we associate with Mother Nature in a natural way, our mind is more peaceful. We're in a more natural environment, etc., like that.
Yeah, when I visited Vedagarbha in Hungary, it's very inspiring to see how this community works.
Yeah.
But then and you really think, I want to also be part of such, but then you come back and you see that it's such a one way to go. This is what's encouraging a lot of devotees to do.
It's definitely not easy. We have a nice community like in Indonesia. If you want to see, for the last 24 years, this community has been building up, similar to in various ways. I mean, we have in that community some 45 families, over 150 devotees, our own school, like that. I mean, it's really wonderful to go to a place where you see so many devotees. It's like coming to the temple also, where there's a good congregation, and it's, devotees like to be with devotees. And if devotees can live with devotees, then if our devotee children can go to school with other devotee children, if our devotee children can have teachers who are devotees also, that's most ideal. And of course, some of this I think you're introducing also here in Kyiv and in other city centers by having special classes for our children, etc., like that. Correct? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are, all of us, all over the world, actually living in very challenging times, difficult situations. So we should know what the ideal is, and we should try to move towards that ideal as best we can according to our respective situations. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Also wanted once again to thank you for coming these difficult, tragic times for Ukraine.
Yeah.
And so this is not your first visit to Kyiv, to Ukraine. Have you noticed any differences? What was your impression of this visit?
The last times I came was, to be part of these Mela, Kirtan Mela. And of course, that's a whole, I think they had recently also. Well, I only spent a few days, but I can sense and understand that there's some devotees maybe more in anxiety because they have someone who's on the front line, and also we've lost devotees already. My visit to the temple today, I mean, I could sense, devotees, whenever we have such type of critical situations, they help us come together. They help us to become more serious about our practice of Krishna consciousness. And so definitely, I mean, all over the world, devotees are aware of the critical, condition and situation here in Ukraine. Something like this can happen anytime, practically anywhere as well. We live in it's part of our philosophy, a world which is unpredictable and full of, especially in this modern era where in general there's such a lack of understanding of dharma, etc. So I can sense that devotees are I would say more concentrated on I mean, my limited observations, on their practice of Krishna consciousness, and we all need to be in the mood of prayer, because prayer is very important, and our primary process, as given by Mahaprabhu, actually is to take shelter of the holy name. Everything else is, in Krishna's hands. I was mentioning how this is a statement that Bhaktivinoda Thakur made in one of his songs, how the safest place in the material world is where the holy name is being chanted. So devotees from around the world, I'm sure, are praying for the devotees here in Ukraine, so that our devotees can remain strong in their Krishna consciousness and deal to the best of their ability with the challenges that situation is bringing. So yeah, my little let's say, if I can say that, contribution in terms of awareness. The Krishna consciousness is all about increasing our awareness about so many aspects, and I somehow, for the last so many years, just especially have been focused on this dimension of this aspect, which is less, as we discussed a little earlier, very often less understood. And of course, it takes some time, and that's why it's important for the devotees to hear what Srila Prabhupada has explained, and for devotees to have some discussions. And ultimately, of course, whether we are here in Kyiv, in the city, or in the country, the material world is, padam padam yadvi padam, is a place of danger, and we just have to be fixed. The more fixed we are in our Krishna consciousness, we can best deal with the situation. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this message.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to come here this time?
Not well, not particularly. I had already planned out, naturally, which countries I was visiting, and Czech was the last country I was in, so it's not too far from Ukraine. Initially, actually, I was not planning to come to Ukraine, but because I've come a few times, and Yamuna Prabhu said, "Hey, what about Ukraine?" So I said, so I didn't. I came to know that I can't fly here, so then I was asking, okay, then how to come? It's okay, we'll arrange to go and get you. And then at the last minute, it was like, well, actually, we can't go and get you because for different reasons. And so, anyways, somehow I came with some devotees. One devotee actually, who was touring with me from Switzerland, who was my disciple, and he was kind enough to kind of extend his stay, and I'll take you to the borders. So at the border, of course, we had to wait like everybody else, but we came through, and our devotees were waiting on the other side for us. So it was okay. Yeah. Yeah. And anyways, coming to Ukraine, because I've been to Hungary. I've not been to Poland. We came through Poland to cross the border, but when I was younger, actually, we used to. Canada has a lot of immigrants from Poland, from Ukraine, And these what we call Eastern Europe, Eastern countries, they all have something very common, something in common in that. I noticed that amongst devotees also because they're from that background. In many ways, actually, much closer to land, more closer to many aspects of the Vedic culture, actually. And it's part of the culture that, you have a natural respect, like for elders, and family tradition used to be quite strong, and this whole we call Eastern Bloc has many, I would say, attractive features which devotees, like once they understand about Krishna consciousness, they fully give themselves to the mission. They like to serve, and it's just very inspiring to see. So I learned many things by coming here also. Yeah.
Okay. I also wanted to ask you a couple of personal questions.
Yeah.
Okay. The first one I always want to hear when I meet or have a chance to associate with some of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada is, did you have any personal experiences with divine grace? Maybe?
Yeah. Most devotees did not have any personal exchange, and I'm one of those devotees also. I was in New Vrindavan, that was in 1974, where I first saw Srila Prabhupada and got initiated. That was in July 1974. And so Prabhupada also came to Canada, came to Montreal the following year. But I never had any direct personal exchange or contact with him as such. And actually, I would say most, or quite a large number, probably most, of my godbrothers and godsisters are in a similar kind of. But I keep hearing, because it's always very, I'm sure you have probably heard some of the what we call memories from especially those devotees who had that kind of interaction with Srila Prabhupada. And of course, not only them, but in those days it was just, I guess one word that could describe it was electrifying. If you touch by accident a live wire, you feel it, right? So it was very intense. Positive intense, and we were just happy to be there, and to come in contact with devotees. So most of us, and I'm part of that. We learned from so many things from the elder, more senior Vaishnavas who had personal. But I joined in 1974. I visited my first temple and had my first Sunday feast actually 50 years ago this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm celebrating my golden jubilee of actually coming to Krishna consciousness. And it was just, it's difficult to describe, but we were just, we knew we were part of something very unique and very special. And most of us were, in awe and reverence. And it was difficult by that time, by 1974, like in 1974, when I went to New Vrindavan to get initiated, that was the first time I saw so many sannyasis, these tall, many of them Americans, and Prabhupada was coming from a morning walk, and I see all these dandas walking, and then, where's Prabhupada? And then all of a sudden you see Prabhupada, it's like small stature and whatnot, but Prabhupada always had that very intense presence, and so it's just wonderful to hear from so many devotees, even those who didn't have that kind of personal exchange, but most of them have something that they very fondly remember of that era when Prabhupada was physically present with us on the planet.
Can you share some of your such memories? Maybe one.
Well, when Prabhupada came to Montreal, he lived close to the temple in the temple president's apartment, which was close, walking distance. And Prabhupada was supposed to stay a few days, but he stayed actually maybe less than 1 day because he had to go back to India. He was meeting Indira Gandhi at that time. It was like at the last minute. So all of us, we went to that apartment. You know, I was a cook in another temple, so we came from that temple, and I thought maybe I can cook for Prabhupada, but there was already people lined up. But I came to know that the Prabhupada wanted some corn, so I personally went out and purchased some corn with a few other devotees, and Prabhupada actually. Before I joined as a devotee, my father was a professional cook. And so I knew something about cooking, and so that's why my main service before coming to India was in the kitchen. But Prabhupada he instructed his cook at that time is Kyiv Swami. He instructed him to cook the corn in a very unique way that I had never heard of before. Yeah, you can put it on fire, or most people, they peel it and then they break it, they put it in water, boiling water. Yeah, those are the two ways I knew, but Prabhupada had a third way, which is probably the best way. So he told so I was there with other devotees and came to know. Prabhupada told him, don't peel the corn. You put it in foil wrap, and you put it in the oven, so that it cooks in its own steam, because corn has a lot of water. That was when the fifth canto of the Bhagavatam had just come out, or was about to come out, and there was some discussion about cosmology. And we were maybe 10 or 15, new devotees pretty well, and we were just, trying to hear. We were in the apartment, but in a different room. And I remember hearing one comment which has always stuck with me. Prabhupada was answering different questions, and at one point he commented. I mean, we couldn't see; we could just hear, barely hear. So Prabhupada said, "What I just explained, what I just responded, is based on realization." So hearing that statement from Prabhupada to me was like, okay, a person like Prabhupada, not only he understands by Shastra, but he is also able to realize certain things that maybe most of us cannot, So it was like a further confirmation of, Prabhupada's exalted and unique position as an acharya, and our founder acharya. Yeah, but I don't have. I never went on a morning walk with Prabhupada. I never sat in a darshan as such. I attended a few Prabhupada's classes. First time was in Montreal. Well, first time was when I got initiated in '74. Then the next year. And then also Prabhupada came we went to Philadelphia from Canada for the Rath Yatra. That was also in '75. And then Prabhupada actually, Rath Yatra had started, the procession was just beginning, and then Prabhupada arrived. And so he walked up with a few devotees, and he came practically where I was, and he offered his full obeisances. And one brahmachari who joined with me, he told me, he says, at the time I was a brahmachari, he said, Prabhupada, you were so close to Prabhupada, he said, your head was touching Prabhupada's feet. I mean, I don't remember touching Prabhupada's feet, but I mean, that was the closest I guess I got to Prabhupada. But it was a very, just being at that place where Prabhupada was very, very unique, very special. Yeah.
So what inspires you the most in Krishna consciousness? What keeps you going despite all the difficulties you faced? And so what helps you grow as a devotee?
I would say just hearing Prabhupada's, I keep hearing the Nectar Devotion series, which you may know. In 1972, Prabhupada gave a whole series of lectures in Vrindavan, correct? And just a small group of mostly foreign devotees. Just, I mean, Prabhupada's, especially when he speaks, I mean, both his writing, because Prabhupada has a very unique way of presenting things, which just get the point across. So I would say, probably like many devotees, I mean, Prabhupada as an individual, as a personality, and what he has done for me and for everyone else, and what this movement is capable of doing, and what it is doing, although we may not perceive it all the time. It's like finding the mission of life, really. So it's like there's no other way, or there's nothing else really as important as being nourished by this knowledge that Prabhupada is giving us, and so many devotees, God brothers and God sisters, when I hear of their memories and their journey in Krishna consciousness, I find that very very inspiring also. I mean, we have devotees who have served beyond 50 years, and they're still fresh in their understanding and their determination and their conviction, and continue to appreciate and praise Srila Prabhupada for what he has done and what he continues to do for the whole world, to do actually for the whole world.
So thank you very much once again for sharing all these realizations.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something you want to tell us in
well, devotees should, as Prabhupada requested all of us, we should be hearing his lectures and reading his books, and really endeavor to deepen our understanding of his mission and his vision. The success of a disciple is to actually imbibe that mission of the spiritual master, and the more we can do that, then we can remain positive, we can remain enthusiastic, and enthusiasm is like the key for all of us to advance in Krishna consciousness.